Okay, so here we're heading into one of the rooms, and then as you can see, there's actually a lot of computers in here. So if we kind of just start over here, what we then see is how there's like kind of some Apple IIs. So those were the very first Apples. There's some Amiga computers. And then there's like kind of a lot of monitors, and those monitors are all Ataris. And then there's some more Apple computers and hardware, and that's a Macintosh over there. And then there's some Sun workstations and some Silicon graphics. And then over here, there's actually a really rare computer that was made in Canada. And then you can kind of see how up here there's like kind of a lot of other types of things, like there's a magazine that's actually talking about artificial intelligence from like 1984 or something like this. And then over here, what you then have is like lots of computer software. And one of the things about collecting old computers is that a lot of times they save the hardware, only they didn't actually save the software. So trying to find software is in fact actually really hard for a lot of these really old computers. And if you know something about Unix, this is kind of a really early Unix computer that was done by AT&T. And if we just go back to the software, so there's all these old operating systems like Solaris and OS2. And as we kind of go up, there's like kind of some programming languages, and even higher, we actually have Windows 1.0 and Windows 2.0. And then at the top, you then kind of just see other types of things that I've read about old computers. And at the very top is some more software. And probably the very last thing is it's kind of not only this room that has kind of a lot of stuff, but even the closet is just full of old software and old things that they would hand out in trade shows. And if we kind of go down, we then kind of just see all of these other things that are labeled. And one of the things that's actually rare too is it's kind of hard to find old computer posters, because posters are something that would often hang on a wall and then they would throw out. So now let's actually pause and head into the next room. So here we are. We're now into the next room. And then as you can see, there's all these old Apple Macintoshes. And they're all a wide range of things, from Macintosh Classic to Macintosh Plus. And then there's the Macintosh SE30, which is kind of the one that a lot of the collectors actually like. And then once more, there's actually just more computers, more Apple types of stuff. And there's Atari ST computers. And then there's actually more kind of Unix computers. And as you can see, there's even down here just more piles of kind of Atari ST computers. And that's kind of it for this room. So now we'll go downstairs. Okay, so now we are downstairs. So as you can see, there's an arcade game console, and that one was actually retro fitted. And here are some of the other like kind of really neat little type of computers. So with this one, it like has actually a little pin up on top, And the pen was actually used to mark things, but as well, there was a little light that's kind of inside of here. And whenever somebody would write you, like send you an email, that little light would turn on and it would actually flash up. So it would tell you that you had it. And as we walk over here, you then have some of the old Macintoshes again. And there's and then there's like a system here called a Vertex or a Vectrex. And the Vectrex uses a vector-based monitor. So it's where you have lines instead of having pixels. And then heading down, there's like kind of Sun Hardware, and there's kind of actually Silicon Graphics. Those are two firms that are no longer around now. And Apple, with Steve Jobs, when he was actually forced out of Apple, he then went on to make this firm called Next. And these were the first computers that they sold. And they sold for $10,000 each when they first actually came out. And then over here is a pretty interesting computer. So it's a one from Commodore. And what it has kind of a chiclet type of a keyboard and a tape drive. So you would actually load all your software through these tapes. And then over here is just another view of another Apple. And then over here, you then have all these Atari computers. And it's really interesting how a long time ago, like during probably 1985 or so, you would have all these kind of plastic covers or these vinyl coverings for actually protecting these computers because they were so rare. And then if we kind of go here, there's actually kind of more computers and monitors. One of the things is trying to track down old monitors is actually tough because they're heavy and people often threw them away. You're probably asking, why are there parrots? Well, there's parrots here because they're actually being hacked and they're being unprogrammed. And the same thing down here with actually the little robot dogs and the head, or the deer head. It's a robotic deer head. And when these kind of computers first came out, they were all very large and very heavy. So a lot of the laptops were in fact more like luggage. So you would carry them around and they actually weigh like quite a lot. And here we are, we're like kind of looking at more like kind of the handheld type of devices that they had, and as well like kind of there's a range of like different pins that they would hand out in trade shows, and a lot of those firms are in fact no longer around. And as you kind of go down, you then kind of see old floppies, and you see like an old cassette. And as we go down further, you have kind of the Apple message pad, which is like kind of like the iPhone, but kind of the iPhone from like probably the early 1990s. And as well, they even had like kind of trading cards, computer trading cards that they would actually hand out at trade shows and everything like this. And then down here, there's just other types of things that like kind of showing old floppies and old tablets. And probably the very last thing to actually show is the oldest computer that I have in my collection. And this is one that's probably from the 1967. And as you can see, there's all those little wires and all those cards. So those are essentially the way that software was written. And then what would happen is you would take that card with all those wires in, and then you would then put it in place here, and then you then would actually run the you would run your little software. So that's the end of the computer collection. There's still a lot more to show, but there's just not enough time. Bye.